You're watching The Mojo Story. I'm Barkha Dutt. This is the digital platform that does an in-depth analysis of the biggest issues of the day. But we go behind the headlines. Today, Rafale has returned to the headlines. Something that was buried and was considered to be political rhetoric of the last election is now returning to the news headlines after this report in a French publication, Mediapart, that argues that 1 million euros were paid to an Indian middleman by the manufacturers of the Rafale jet. This is, as we said, been published in Mediapart. The publication goes on to argue that the French Anticorruption Agency did find loopholes while conducting its audit. However, on finding what had happened and on finding evidence of payment of 1 million euros to this middleman, the AFA did not refer the case to French prosecutors, according to the French publication Mediapart. Now, you can imagine that this has become a big political story in India. The opposition is targeting the government is hitting back. We'll have more on that later. But according to the publication in France, the payment was made to the middleman under the heading gift to clients. And that is the important thing. That is how it was shown. And the alleged middleman is Sushant Gupta, and he's already being investigated by the CBI in the Augusta Westland case, right? So this is a very interesting thing. We're now finding a link between the chopper deal scam and Sushant Gupta, the alleged middleman in the Rafale case, is out on bail for his role in the chopper scam and now under scrutiny for being a middleman allegedly in the Rafale deal. Joining us on the program from France today, we're joined by Yann Philippin, the journalist who broke that story, who wrote that story and has brought Rafale back to the headlines both in France and in India. I'm going to ask you, Yann, to first tell us what your investigations reveal actually happened. When questioned about what this 1 million euros was for, the manufacturers, Dassault, of course, argued that it was money that was going to be used to build 50 replicas of the Rafale jet, and there's no evidence that these replicas were ever made. Can you tell us a little bit as to what piqued your interest in the story again, how you went about investigating it and what you found?
What we found is very simple, is that, that it's been a strange coincidence, because you remember that back in 2018, there's been first suspicions about these deals and a big political turmoil, both in India and in France. There's been 2 criminal complaints filed, one in India, one in France. Both these complaints have been dismissed. But what is very interesting is that at the same moment that the French complaint has been filed to the French financial prosecutor, there's been a routine audit of Dassault, the manufacturer of the Rafale, performed by the French Anticorruption agency. And what the inspectors found is this very strange payment of 1 million euros for allegedly, that's what Dassault said to the French Anticorruption agency, for the payment of 50 Rafale models or Rafale replicas. And there are 2 points that makes this payment suspicious. The first one, as you very well said, is that it goes to a company owned by the family of a middleman, which is under investigation in another defense deal. And the second thing is that, these agents from the French Anti-Corruption Agency, they saw that this payment was written in the accounting of Dassault as a gift to client. And the law against corruption is quite tough in France, and you can be indicted for corruption for gift for even a few hundred or a few thousand euros. So when you have a first payment of 500,000 euros written as a gift for the clients, it raises suspicions. And so the inspector asked Dassault, so what about these models, these replicas? Do they exist? Were they delivered by this Indian company? And what is really strange is that, according to our information, Dassault was not able to provide any material element showing that these models have been manufactured or delivered to Dassault. And despite this, the French Anticorruption Agency buried the case and did not report it to French prosecutors who could have digged this case to the bottom.
Why do you think they buried the case? Because that means that you're looking not only at alleged corruption in India, you're looking at alleged corruption or a cover-up in France, and that cover-up, according to you, would involve the French Anti-Corruption Agency itself.
Yes, unfortunately, we don't know for sure if there's been political pressure or not applied on the French Anti-Corruption Agency. What we're sure about is that this public agency, which depends on the state, it is under the authority of two French ministries, the Ministries of Budget and the Ministry of Justice. So we don't know if there's been pressure applied to this French Anti-Corruption Agency. But what we know and what we wrote in our report is that Dassault complained that just after the French Anti-Corruption Agency discovered these strange payments for Rafale models, they complained about this audit, saying that the French Anti-Corruption Agency asked too many documents, that the audit was basically, they were not happy with that. So what you can see is that there's been, they have been worried, Dassault, just after the discovery of these strange payments, but we don't know for sure yet if there's been pressure applied to the agency or not.
What has been the response of the official authorities in France after your story has been published?
Absolutely no comment. And that's what is really striking in this story, because this is a very important story. This is, as you know, a very political agreement signed between the two governments. It's also a huge contract, almost 8 billion euros. So you could expect in a democracy that when such an issue is raised, there are answers from the authorities. And the French Anti-Corruption Agency said no comment because we are bound to professional secrecy regarding this audit. And Dassault said no comment too. So basically, when we asked, we had a wall of silence in front of us and absolutely no reaction.
So how do you now go beyond the he said, she said, he said, she said, a sort of stalemate that the story will be locked into? Now, the BJP government, of course, has argued that there has been no corruption in this deal at all. And after the publication of your report, we had one of the senior ministers address the press here today. Now, just for context to our audience, the man you say received 1 million euros, and you believe that was a payoff. He has also been investigated, arrested, and now he's out on bail in another chopper scam, or in another corruption case, in another defense corruption case. But that case, according to the ruling BJP, involves the opposition Congress party. So I just want you to take a minute and look at what the minister said, and then I'll put this into context with my next question. This is the BJP government responding to the new controversy around the Rafale story. Okay, we're just waiting for that statement from the minister to come. But if you just want to put into context how the research that you did on Sushen Gupta and what you discovered about him. Yann?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're just waiting for that
yes.
statement you made ready.
I'm very sorry. I have to decline to answer your question for a reason, which is that maybe you noticed that we just announced that that's going to be a 3-part investigative series. And so there are 2 more episodes to be published. And I prefer not to answer this question until the next episodes are out. But what I can tell you today is that you can expect new revelations, which is going to be more important than the one in this first episode.
Okay.
Basically, so that's just the beginning.
Okay, there's more coming. I'm told that we now have the minister's statement ready, so I'm just going to play that out. I want you to hear it, and then I'll ask my next question. So can we please play Ravi Shankar Prasad on the Rafale controversy?
ये जो जिसने ये चर्चा की है, एक तो कॉर्पोरेट राइवलरी है, आपको मालूम है फ्रांस की चलती है, मुझे उस पर कुछ नहीं कहना है. एक कोई जर्नल है जो उसने इस बात को कही है. लेकिन सबसे मजेदार बात यह है कि उसने सुशेन गुप्ता का नाम लिया है. सुशेन गुप्ता ये गुप्ता महाशय कौन है जिनको अगस्ता वेस्टलैंड में इंडियन एजेंसी ने गिरफ्तार किया था? कब किया था? 2019 में। तो हमारी सरकार के समय गिरफ्तार हुए हैं। और अगस्ता वेस्टलैंड में परिवार के लोगों का भी नाम आया था ना, याद है डायरी में कि नहीं आया था? अब मिशेल की बात मैं नहीं कहूंगा, आप लोगों ने उसको बहुत दुख दिखाया है। और उसमें कई नेताओं का भी नाम था, कुछ तो बेचारे स्वर्गीय हो गए, मैं क्या बोलूं आपसे। इन कांग्रेस पार्टी के बड़े लोग थे। और ये सुषेण गुप्ता कौन है? तो सलमान खुर्शीद ने तो पब्लिकली कहा है कि हम इसके परिवार को जानते हैं। तो मैं हमेशा कांग्रेस के लोगों से कहता हूं, आप लोग कभी कुछ बोलते हैं जरा अपना हिसाब किताब लगा देना चाहिए ना, जरा होमवर्क कर लेना चाहिए, किसके बारे में बोल रहे हैं, उनका गोत्र क्या है? आजकल गोत्र शब्द बहुत चल रहा है ना, उनका गोत्र क्या है, किनसे उनके संबंध थे, ये क्या मतलब है इसका? ये बिल्कुल बेबुनियाद है।
So I'll just translate that quickly for you, Yann.
Sure.
Basically, what one of the senior ministers of the government is saying, one, is that he has dismissed what's happening, your story, as a consequence of what he calls corporate rivalry. He's saying this is corporate rivalry that is going on in France, that these are the kind of leaks and counter leaks that happen in the backdrop of corporate rivalry. But to the middleman, or the alleged middleman that your story argues was paid 1 million euros in this Rafale deal, the minister says that it was our government that arrested this man in another case, which is the Augusta Westland case. And then he goes on to look quite pleased about the fact that in the Augusta Westland case, it is, of course, the Gandhi family name that emerged in this case, which is the main opposition party that first flagged the Rafale as being a corruption case. And then he ends by saying Rahul Gandhi does not do his homework. So basically what the government's response here has been is to say the following. One, this is corporate rivalry. Two, if you talk about this gentleman being the middleman, as your story argues, then this middleman is known to have links with the Congress. The Congress is the opposition party that first said that there had been corruption in Rafale. So this is how the government here is dealing with it. It's not being silenced. It's in fact gone on the offensive.
What I can say as of today on these 2 points, I must stress that the first point is completely inaccurate, because as I told you and as we reported, this information emerged from an official audit of Dassault, the manufacturer, performed by a public authority in France, which is the French Anticorruption Agency. So there's nothing about a corporate rivalry. It's basically not true. It's just that Dassault has been audited and the French Anti-Corruption Agency made this discovery. So no competitor of Dassault is involved in the discovery of this new information. On the second point, I would... I'm afraid I would not comment, because this is... Sorry. Basically, this is the interpretation that this minister makes of the relationship that may or may have not this alleged middleman with the political people in India. And I presume there are people more competent than me in India to assess, if this man, Mr. Gupta, is closer to the BJP or to the opposition. So I will let the Indian experts to answer on this.
And anyway, that's not your problem as a journalist. You have to simply tell what you find. And as you said, you found this from the official audit. Now, how do you explain the fact that in France this has not become a bigger issue? In India, it emerged as an issue during the elections, and once the elections were over and the BJP came back to power, it was an issue that faded from the headlines. It was also a technical issue. People were not able to fully understand it. What I know you can't tell us a lot about Susheen Gupta. There's more coming. You have a 3-part investigation. But if you had to sort of summarize where you think the quid pro quo may have been, where you think the cover-up may have been, what would you say?
I'm sorry, because there are two questions. About the first questions, I must confess to you that I'm surprised too that the news doesn't have more impact in France. I'm afraid that, Indian democracy is working, and corruption issues are considered here in India, in your countries, are as real issue. And I'm afraid that sometimes in France, we don't take, sometimes we seem not to take corruption as seriously as the Indian media do. Basically, that's a fact as of today regarding this particular story. And could you please repeat the second question to me?
If you had to summarize at which level you think the cover-up, because your story alleges that the agency that is supposed to track corruption may have been complicit in this cover-up. Talk a little bit about this agency and what, how much autonomy does it typically have?
This is an agency which is, so it's a public agency with civil servants working in it. It's been created in 2014 following a big political scandal that we had here in France, and which had been revealed by Mediapart already, about our former budget minister who was hiding offshore money without declaring it and paying his taxes, and so this anti-corruption agency has been created just after this scandal. It is placed under the authority of the Minister of Budget and of the Minister of Justice, and it should be formally independent. So that's for what this agency is. And as I told you, what we know is that there's been a cover-up from this agency, that they did not report the facts to French prosecutors, but unfortunately, we do not have enough evidence to say whether a pressure has been applied to this agency or not.
And you have clearly done deeper investigation about this alleged middleman. Will your next two stories be focusing on his role?
I'm afraid I cannot answer this question. All that I can say is that there should be interest again in India when we will release our next articles.
Okay, finally, before we let you go, why do you think there's been such a gap of time? Why are these details only coming out now, today?
Because this series of articles is the result of an investigation that I did during several months, and as you know, these are very sensitive and secret cases. This kind of military deals. And so it's been quite a hard work to basically investigate, get the information, check them, and be solid enough to be able to publish. It's quite a very long investigation process, and that's why basically we published when we were ready.
And just briefly, when you went through the audit papers, you found that actually 50% advance, about 500,000 euros, was identified in the chart that said gift to client. And
yes.
The company then said this money was going to be used for making replica models of the Rafale. So why was it put under gift to client? If it actually had a purpose, why was it called gift to client?
That's a mystery. That's just something I don't understand. It's one of the elements that makes this payment suspicious. The fact that it's written as a gift to clients, the fact that Dassault could not provide factual elements showing that it's been delivered, and the fact that the company that allegedly should have manufactured these models belongs to a middleman, which is under investigation in another defense deals. These are the three elements that make these payments suspicious.
Well, the murky world of defense deals, both in our country and yours. We look forward to reading your next two stories. I'm sure they'll create their share of controversy here. We are in election season in India, so it is going to get a lot of attention. If you haven't read Yann Philippin's story in Mediapart, the investigation says that Dassault paid 1 million euros to an alleged Indian middleman in the Rafale deal that was shown as a gift to client, a 50% advance of 500,000 euros, but the twist in the tail is that the middleman at the center of Yann's story happens to have been someone who's already been arrested in the Augusta Westland chopper scam, which the BJP government is now saying is actually linked to the Congress. So it's a zero-sum game here in India. Yann, thank you for talking to us, and we look forward to reading your next report. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks very much for your invitation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.